Esteemed members of the panel and audience, Vice Chancellor, Professor Ivlaw Griffith, good evening. First of all, let me say thanks to Dr. Paloma, Mohamed and the University of Guyana for inviting me to be part of this event. While time will not allow for a more detailed presentation from the IAC's standpoint regarding the broad theme of race, reality, and reconciliation in Guyana, events like these allow for one to be respectfully candid on the realities and to offer a few suggestions on reconciliation. Also, one has to be cognizant of the sensitivities of the issue in the context of how it can be interpreted or misinterpreted. That said, we in the IAC were of the view that any discussion on race becomes difficult if we do not talk to each other. What we have found in our analysis is that often when Indo-Guyanese speak on the issue of race and allude to the realities, they're often branded as racist, while others who similarly speak out are seemingly revered as rights activists. For us, this is a major concern because we believe that deliberately labeling someone as racist when he or she represents the cause can only be seen as an attempt to silence. Question is, how can we talk to each other when there appears to be a sense of orchestration to silence one side? In any related analysis, the hesitancy through fear, often governed primarily by security of livelihoods, cannot be dismissed. Those who are fearful of lending their own voices often seek solace, directly or indirectly, in the few with a testicular fortitude so that their sentiments to be articulated and represented. As such, only a few take the public stand. Their vilification is not just an attempt to silence them, but becomes an example to others who harbor thoughts of being vocal. Therefore, the conditions and the enabling environment for that crucial and frank interaction becomes even more difficult to create. The IAC is therefore happy for this event and the fact that part of the theme speaks to reality. The organizers must be commended for recognizing that we cannot speak of solutions if we do not address the reality, the problems that is. Unfortunately, and maybe ironically, speaking to the reality seems to be one of the problems. On January 12th this year, the IAC held a discussion forum on race relations. What was extremely encouraging from the civil exchanges was the unanimous agreement for more but wider discussions. If that discussion can be used as a sort of gauge, then it's an indication that our people are willing to engage meaningfully with the expectation of solutions offered to be implemented. Now, implementation is a whole discussion by itself due to the various factors, including the complexities for a diverse society like ours, and it also brings into question will and genuineness. That said, the IAC chose January 12th simply because this year marks the 20th anniversary of what can only be described as racial violence unleashed on Indo-Guyanese by others who humiliated them under the guise of electoral discontent. 10 years ago, 11 innocent people, including 5 children, all Indo-Guyanese, were executed at Luzeknan. Those are just 2 examples of many in which one section of our population can be made to feel inferior and easy targets. We in the IAC believe strongly that such events must not be confined to the dustbins of history, and the painful anniversaries be conduits for all to raise a voice to prevent a recurrence. We are cognizant that the seemingly unending scourge of crime affects all in the general context of fear and insecurity. However, we cannot be oblivious of the fact that a vast majority of victims are of Indo-Guyanese ancestry. As they believe they are made to be cowed, some have naturally but unnecessarily and unfairly question their belonging to the homeland. Their sense of insecurity is also compounded by their belief of a lack of sustained implementation of stringent mitigating measures. In reality, this has been a contributing factor for many fleeing. This belief, which has been embedded into the mindsets of the victims over time, and which has created suspicion and stereotypes among our people, poses one of the greatest challenges in the context of talking to each other. These are not the only factors. When one group is made to feel persecuted following a change of government, when one group feels there is preferential development at the expense of the others, it worsens the feelings of not belonging. We still hear of numerous cases of racial discrimination, of witch hunts, indiscriminate dismissal of people, and other deliberate acts of economic deprivation. Some have posited this to be an ongoing cycle, which others have disputed. While there is a plethora of examples for fostering suspicion and mistrust, we have to find ways and means of creating and sustaining a path to reconciliation. We believe this begins with a profound sense of genuineness and willpower. Sometimes we hear the argument of whether this is something those entrusted really want. Ladies and gentlemen, for this to work, it must become something everybody wants. On the way forward, there has to be a change in some aspects of mindsets through empowerment, which can be realized through respect and education. Mindsets are not easily changed, but we have seen the power of education. Like many others, we believe that the curriculum designed to enlighten our people from a young age and our history and our cultures on what makes us who we are individually and collectively, on what each of us bring to nation building, on how each equally belong to this homeland, and on the beauty and strength of our diversity is urgently needed. This hopefully can make us colorblind in the process. Education brings understanding, appreciation, and tolerance. This builds respect, which puts us in a better position. However, it cannot be in isolation, for it has to be complemented by the requisite actions of all. One could therefore argue that the creation of the requisite conditions becomes paramount. This will require willpower, which is latent and can be unleashed if needed. In closing, ladies and gentlemen, I cannot overemphasize the need for fostering the understanding of the difference between representing a cause and promoting racism, for all have a right to represent theirs. For mindsets to change, it will take the collective of willpower, education, appreciation, respect, and meaningful engagements. There is hope. Hope that at some point in our future, none will be caught in the conundrum of being fearful to speak out, and when they muster the strength to do so, they are not deliberately misrepresented and branded a racist. Thank you.